Hi. Today I will share some thoughts about anxiety. This is well influenced by Lacanian, Freudian, and Kierkegaardian thought. It is obviously not a final word, but merely a play of ideas. Anxiety is quite the mysterious emotion. Like all emotions, it is a sign that something within or without demands attention. If fear is a response to an actual object, like a lion, what is anxiety a response to? I believe it is a response to the loss of one's self, or more specifically, a warning that we are getting close to such. Just as dizziness signals a loss of physical balance, anxiety signals a loss of mental balance. The psyche is thrown to the edge and loses its center, and anxiety is simply a warning that this is happening. Beyond this mental edge, theoretically, lies the dread of nonexistence, not of a physical death, but of a psychological one. The death of the subject. The subject can die from two directions, two polarities, which I want to present today. On the one hand, a lack of boundaries, too much inner freedom, after which we simply fall into the abyss. On the other hand, we have no freedom whatsoever. We're crushed by the other, stagnant, objectified. But before we get into these two polarities, which is really what I want to focus on, let's explore what is this self that one may lose. Well, it appears that there exists a mental entity that can form, hold, and keep from disintegrating. Just as the invisible force of gravity holds together objects in the universe, inner gravity holds psychic objects around a center, theoretically, that holds. This entity exists within an abstract structure, a space within which inner movement occurs, and which may have an imaginary center and edges. The strength and qualities of this inner gravity can explain the existence of different kinds of mental structures. Most noticeably, we see the lack of strength in inner gravity in the psychotic structure, where objects may be floating more freely, unable to find the center, or without the function of stoppage, without a boundary. Another structure, a kind of neurotic structure, may be prone to the opposite, to be crushed and suffocated by the weight of its inner objects due to a powerful inner gravity, too powerful, therefore lack in inner movement or openness. It can bring to depression, a lack of movement. Let us then explore the different qualities of anxiety that arise when approaching these two mental extremes. And so, again, on the one hand, the anxiety of being crushed, suffocated, of being turned into an object, and therefore losing our subjectivity. This may happen in response to either the other trying to objectify us, or for inner objects to crush us, or even for words and definitions to do so. I am this and that, and I wish to break free from such definition. We are overly defined. It is natural for anger to come up in response to this, an anger which seeks to draw a boundary. Anxiety may also come up due to a repression of this anger, an anger which may be too scary to recognize and act upon. This is essentially the Freudian anxiety. In Lacanian terms, we may call this the anxiety of the answer, the lack in lacking. This is classic Lacanian stuff, but the lack, the thing that is missing, is that which creates desire. The will to move forward, to search for something that does not yet exist. It is the fuel to life. This desire creates the subject. Therefore, the anxiety of the answer is the anxiety that desire will be fulfilled completely, that there will be no air left in the oxygen tank of wanting, that we will lose our desire and therefore lose ourselves. On the other hand, we will find the anxiety of complete freedom, or of the question. In its extreme, this anxiety can be, again, psychotic. Here, the psyche is met with a lack of boundaries, an inability to exist in context, a lack of discernment, maybe, between space and time, within or without, reality and delusion. Who am I? How did I get here? Where do I belong? What am I to do? This is the extreme of Kierkegaard's anxiety of freedom, the dizziness one feels when standing on the verge of the abyss. This anxiety is a call for balance in the form of boundaries, context, signifiers, language, and relationship. This anxiety arises when one is lost in the there and calls for here, and is lost in the unknown and calls for the known. And so again, we see that anxiety may arise when approaching these two extremes. On the one hand, too much freedom, a lack of boundaries, either outside or inside or both. And on the other hand, being crushed and suffocated and therefore losing our subjectivity, again, either by the other on the outside or by inner objects or language. So let us try to maybe, first of all, I would love to know what you think, and let us try to see if this works in real life, in reality. Let us recognize when anxiety comes up, what does this signify? Am I losing myself? And if I am, on which extreme? Am I too free? Do I lack in boundaries? Do I lack in relationship, definitions, commitments? Or the other extreme, am I completely suffocated by the same, by the other, by definitions, by a relationship, by inner objects, by myself? Am I depressed? Do I need more movement? Thank you. I would love to hear your thoughts.